So after I ended up making a not so quick vlog on why I had to end up leaving one particular game, I need a bit of a palate cleanser. And I figured I'd end up answering a question asked by an older video from Dawnforge Cast. And quite frankly, it's why do I enjoy Vampire the Masquerade, or in his case, as he defined it, World of Darkness, but I primarily play Vampire. And it's actually quite simple. It's not as he describes it, where you're playing evil characters doing wicked things. It's a little bit more than that. It's a horror game, more to the point, a personal horror game. Now, you can very easily start with characters that are very horrific, but with characters like that, you have very little flex with them, I find. Now, maybe in 5 years' time, I will find somebody who can change my mind on that. Maybe they'll introduce me to a new way of thinking that can end up making a sociopath end up turning into a very interesting and dynamic character that is fun to role play with or against in some cases. But as far as Vampire the Masquerade, one of the core themes that I absolutely love about it is a beast I am, lest a beast I become. At their core, vampires are predators. However, not all people are. And one of the core components to Vampire the Masquerade is its humanity system. It's basically a 10-point system, usually starting around 6 or 7, more often 7. But this is you as a human being who is entrenched in humanity. You find the little things in life that you might regret. And sometimes they're stereotypical, but they're not always a bad thing to explore. What do you think it would be like to have your entire existence predicated on how long an evening goes? What if you found out tomorrow that you had to subsist on the blood of your fellow man, that you need it to sustain yourself on? Well, maybe you weren't brought in by choice. Not many are. In some cases, they may think they had a choice. Reality is they never did. The vampire is inherently a deceitful creature. It has to be. It's a predator living in secret amongst predators, trying to keep, in their mind, the world's greatest secret, that vampires walk among us. And when you're brought into that, it can spiral down. It's a story of loss. It's a story of trying to hang on to those little things that matter. In the world of kindred, their word for vampire, as Smiling Jack might say, you are trapped in a perpetual existence of night, blood, and predators trying to vie for a bigger piece of the pie. The ability to easier sustain themselves. This is a lot harder than it might look, because inside every one of them is this bestial nature, this thing that in a moment would take their consciousness away and instead turn them into a ravenous beast wearing human skin. That may be the skin of a corpse, but it's your skin. Think about that for a second. Maybe you try and do your best to make the most of it. You only take what you need. never wanting to kill a victim, and that's what they are, victims. And you try to be pleasurable about it. You try and maybe seduce them. Maybe you take them unknowingly. Maybe you do your best to erase their memory of the events and hope that they go on living, trying to ignore the fact that when they sleep, they have nightmares of that event for the rest of their lives. That you continually hunt. Maybe you're realizing that it's very difficult to end up keeping your humanity when every other predator in the city is trying to end up pushing you to do things for them that your elders, through generational blood, will end up telling you things that you don't want to do, but you're going to have to, especially if you want to keep on existing in the nights. What happens when you get involved in this lethal game of politics, where it just takes one wrong step to meet your end at the dawn, and you try and end up hanging on again to that little bit that was yourself, that bit of humanity, that bit of who you were, and it slips away piece by piece. It might start with the feeding, and you take too much. You hurt them bad enough that they need to go to the hospital. Maybe, maybe you lost control just a bit. You lost a little bit of your humanity. You start realizing that predatory nature of yours, even though you fight against it all you can. You realize that it feels good, that the only thing you subsist on is not something horrific, but something exquisite. Maybe even begin to like it, like that taste. You then end up maybe losing control just that one time and kill the person you're feeding on. Well, vampiric existence is predicated on secrecy, and a body with all of its blood drained might end up bringing up a few questions with the authorities and investigators. You need to hide that body. Not only have you killed somebody, where you've lost a bit of yourself again, but now you got to dispose of the body. You have to desecrate it to get it away. Maybe with a hacksaw. Maybe you don't have a hacksaw. Maybe all you got is a shovel. Maybe you need to end up hiding that body in a trash compactor, or maybe putting it in a bin and burying it so deep in garbage it'll never be found until garbage pickup happens tomorrow morning. And then you realize you did this to another human being, a person who had a family, maybe a wife and kids. Maybe they are just about to get that promotion next week. They might have ended up growing up to be a grandfather. They'll never know, and you'll never know because you killed them. And then you start realizing where you used to care, you stop. The people who are in pain around you don't affect you near as much. You don't empathize with them. You stop looking at human beings as people. You start looking at them as food, as a resource, as a way to get what you want. You start realizing you have some pull, you're supernatural in nature. There's things you can do. And then it slips even more and more. But you can't let it slip because that humanity is that dividing line between you and the beast inside. These are this is the situation that lets you tell some great stories. Not only in how you deal with this, but how others will see you, how you interact with other kindred, other mortals, other things that stalk the night. This makes for some very dark, immersive role playing. And because of the very nature of vampire, you interact. You sometimes need to curry favor with a harpy in order to end up making sure that you're back in the good graces of your fellow kindred because maybe earlier on you screwed up. Maybe you need to ask the adventurer to end up aiding you in hiding a body, and it just so happens that one of them owns a crematorium or a impound lot, car compactor. Maybe you need to end up doing some really horrific things in order to get the leverage you need on a particular police investigator who's getting a little too close to the truth. You would rather just live your existence in peace, just taking enough and being that predator, that parasite, but trying to be benign about it. In the world of darkness, I wish you luck in trying to end up being benign. It seems to be impossible odds, but that's what makes for the great stories, isn't it? It's the standing up against impossible odds. The difference here is that the monster isn't something you can just hack away with a Vorpal sword or end up raising up an army in order to fight for the kingdom. It might not even be the boogeyman under your bed. It's the realization that the thing you're fighting against the most is you. And the world seems built to draw it out of you, even when it says it doesn't want to. It's not about being evil. Never confuse it with being evil. It's being something else. It's about being something that is learning to exist in a new way, in a way that should be horrifying. You play this kind of game to engage in those darker tones, those grays where your altruism won't save you. Trying to be good is only as good as the world will allow you to be, and eventually you'll fall, losing bits of your conscience, losing a bit of your self-control, losing bits of your sanity. But most importantly, losing bit and bit of your humanity. Try and fight against that when you enter Masquerade.